What's up, football fans? Welcome to another episode of the Believe in Big Ten podcast presented by FanDuel. I am Brandon Brown, joined as always by Grant Perry. And today, Grant, 2 weeks in a row, we are stacking all-star guests up to talk college football playoff and championship season and Heisman season. We got a little bit of results to talk about there. We are joined by Big Ten analyst and host of the Y Option podcast, Mr. Yogi Roth. Yogi, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Hey, anytime I could follow anything that Rhett Lewis is doing, I am doing it, okay? I listen to him on your show. He is a dear friend. I love him like a brother. We're on our same crew all season long, sharing a booth, sharing a car, sharing, meals, the whole 9 yards. So this is set up beautifully. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how this works out. I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years, but you said it before we started recording. You never the path to the media and what you do and who you meet is never linear. And this has been awesome. Like I had never met Rhett before. I'd never met you before, but I know you guys. I see what you do. I see your face all over the place. So really cool for me. I know Grant feels the same way. And just excited to talk a little ball. So Grant, if you want to get us started, throw something at Yogi and we'll pick his magnificent brain while we've got him for about 25 minutes here.
Yeah, let's get it going. So I mean, let's look at the college football playoffs, Yogi. And we were talking about a lot of teams, and a team that I don't think is getting enough attention right now is Oregon.
Ooh.
Talk to us about Oregon. Have you covered them this year yet? What have you seen? And talk to us a little bit about Dante Moore leading the helm there.
Okay, I love it. You're reading my mind. I mean, this is exactly what I'm thinking.
Go,
the
babe.
Oregon Ducks are the most undervalued, not talked about team in the playoff. And I would argue all season in the country. Right? After they beat Penn State in the whiteout, and Penn State went down the path that they obviously went down, the Ducks, just kept playing. They lose to Indiana in an awesome game in Autzen, which rarely happens, and they're just kind of under the radar. And to me, of all the teams in the playoff, I wouldn't be shocked to see the Ducks take a run. I really wouldn't. I think they have Dante Moore. You referenced him. To me, he's got the most arm talent in America. And I know what I'm saying when I say that. I said it in August. I've known Dante since he was 17, called his games at UCLA, called his games at Oregon, been around him for a long time. I think he's just special. Anticipation, touch, and what we've seen him do, like every first-year starter within a program, because he started at UCLA for a handful of games, is just evolve as the year goes on, right? Indiana, tough game, challenging environment. Then you go watch the Iowa game. Got to make it, got to have it. Met the moment. And that's just who he is. He's that type of player. I think probably the most undervalued part of this team is their defensive front. You look at Amari Washington, Tatum Tuioti, and Mateo Uiagalelei. Those are going to be first or second rounders, all three of those players. I mean, make no mistake about it. I mean, they are game changers, game wreckers, especially in college football, and I think they'll be really productive at the next level. Then you add in Bryce Betcher, Mr. Eugene, who's going to play his really final game. Linebacker, grew up nearby in Eugene, playing two sports, baseball and football at Oregon. So I think they're legit. I think the layoff for them last year was 25 days. And I asked Dan Lanning this. I was there about a week and a half ago when the CFP was announced, doing an interview for Big Ten Network with him. And this year it's going to be 20 days in between games. And he said the lessons learned last year are really going to help this program out. And I love that. And if you know Dan, he's a growth mindset oriented man. If you go around the facility, it talks about their DNA traits. There's a sign that always says like connection, growth, toughness, and sacrifice. Those are the four things that this team leans on. But he does it as well. I remember Dan as a GA at Arizona State or at Pitt and his run. And he's like, I'm learning too. So I think the lessons learned from the layoff last year prior to the Rose Bowl, Ohio State game, it will benefit this team going forward. And then lastly, they're going to get healthy. There's reports out that some of these playmakers are coming back. Whether they make it back for JMU or not, we'll find out on Saturday, and I'll be there to cover that game. But regardless, the week after that or 10 days after that, when the next round is, assuming they win, they might be at full strength. And that's dangerous. So I'm looking forward to watching this team. It's a young team, but they reloaded in Eugene. And that's really what Dan Lanning has done. He's taken this thing to another level.
Now, let me ask you this. Now, in an era of everyone's moving, pieces are changing, how do you think them losing both coordinators is going to affect them moving forward?
Well, I think we'd be lying if it said it doesn't affect you. It affects everybody, especially I've sat in on meetings with Will Stein, who took over for Kenny Dillingham, who's the head coach at Arizona State, where we sit today, right? Tosh Lupoy, I've known him since he was a player, and then it all stops in college football. So, yeah, it's not going to be easy, but also when you get to know Dan Lanning, really anybody in this era where you're having success, you're constantly planning for it. So I wouldn't be shocked. They haven't done anything yet, but I wouldn't be shocked if they don't promote from within. And I say that from like my lived experience. I was on the staff at USC a long time ago. You were, Grant, you're still playing high school football back then.
Yeah.
But Coach Carroll used to always promote from within. So it was Lane Kiffin, it was Steve Sarkisian. It was coaches that had been around his style. And we started to lose our edge a little bit when those guys took off and it was bringing people from the outside in. And that doesn't mean you're not bringing in elite coaches, but you're bringing in like a different philosophical approach. So they have to kind of be all in, and whoever comes in will be that, right? Will Stein was a beautiful example of that. He came from outside the tree into the family in Eugene, and they only got better. When you look at what Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel did in his 2 seasons calling the offense, and of course this season. So I don't think they'll skip a beat, but I also wouldn't be shocked if they didn't promote from within, because I know that staff has a ton of depth. And then I'll finish with this, man. I think, like, if you play the game, what's the best job in the country? I think it's hard to not talk about Oregon. And I say that of like, the media isn't like it is in some places. It's a stadium where they really care. Every weekend is sold out. It's raucous. The brand, you could argue it's as fresh as any brand in the country with what Dan has done, with what Nike provides to that place. And then you got a chance to win. I just think that like it is a place where coaches love to come. There's so many guys that I've talked to, like, I want to get in on that. I've talked to, can you help me? Can I get to? Because Dan just seems like a great guy to work for. And I would agree. He's incredible. He's incredible on so many fronts. Clearly he's filled up the oxygen that Nick Saban and Jim Harbaugh left when they left college football a couple years ago.
Yogi, I promise I'm not like a one-up guy. I'm not. But I think I've known Dante Moore since he was 15, maybe. So I might have you by
go for it. 2-up it.
Grant knows this. He's a local kid for us. He's a Detroit native. So he's a guy I've known for a long time. Michigan recruited him heavily when I was covering recruiting. He gets away. He goes to UCLA. Now he's at Oregon. He's playing out there on the West Coast. But is he – I feel like this Oregon team is being billed as maybe more complete than Oregon teams of the past that haven't quite been able to get it done. I mean, Oregon's been good for a really long time. They've made some title games. They've made some playoff runs, but they haven't gotten it done. Is he the reason why they can, or is it those 7 or 8 or 10 other guys? Like, they just feel complete. Like, you named a bunch of guys on defense. You named a bunch of guys on offense. And then, oh, by the way, Dante Moore, a very talented quarterback that you see as one of the best, if not the best in the country. Why is this Oregon team complete enough to get it done versus ones in the past?
Well, it's hard to argue against like Marcus Mariota's team. I know they didn't beat Ohio State, but that team was loaded with NFL players. I think of like Bo Nix, and I mean they've kind of been loaded every year. They just haven't been able to finish it. Last year, I really think that the lessons learned. I can't wait to ask Dan Lanning after the JMU game. Like, okay, so what were they specifically? Like, what did you learn? Because they were loaded last year. Yep. So I think that in this era of the CFP, we're just never going to see an SC run, a Bama run, a Georgia run. I just think it's too hard to win at minimum 3 big-time games in a row. You never see it in scheduling, right? The SEC, thankfully, is done scheduling Chattanooga State in Week 11, but nobody has this. Like, nobody has 3 monsters in a row. It's just going to be a challenge. So can you be at your best in all those? I don't know. I think that's going to be hard. It kind of feels like the NFL in that regard. But do they have all the tools? Yeah, they do. I think probably the one that might be overlooked is the experience that Dan Lanning's had. Think about that. Like, think of where he's grown. And I've followed every snap he's called. So think of, if you recall, year 1, they're playing Washington on the road, and they go for it a couple times on 4th down instead of taking 3 points in the red zone. Like, little things that I think he has kind of grown around the head coach and game management, and he's talked about it openly. So maybe that's an edge for them. But they've got all the tools. They've got the headspace. They've got veteran players in certain areas. And I think probably the thing, maybe to answer your question, are they more complete? Maybe they are, because of how they've identified in the portal even more efficiently. Like, look at their offensive line. They're Joe Moore Award finalists, and they lost almost the entirety of their offensive line a year ago. So to identify that and then develop a couple from within and have the depth that they needed late in the season, that's really impressive. That might be one of the more, I keep saying, not talked about, like when we're talking about it, but that's one of the things that if I was calling the game on Saturday night, we'd probably talk about is the offensive front.
Well, it's a great time to be a fan of the Big Ten. Oregon, the favorites, the current betting favorites per FanDuel, Ohio State to repeat at plus 190, by the way, to win the whole thing. And then just Indiana, just the number 1 seed who just beat Ohio State, led by Fernando Mendoza. This kid has been just getting deserved praise heaped on him for not only what he does on the field. That's been really fun to watch, and he's taken Indiana to where they are. But off the field, his interviews, you've learned a little bit more and more about him throughout the season. You were just in the house for the Heisman ceremony. He takes it home, the first ever winner at Indiana. I know that had to be just an incredible moment for him and his family. He's extremely close. His brother's on the team. It's an incredible story. What's he like? I mean, is this can't be real, right? Like, this kid's not this awesome and this wholesome, is he? Like, there's no way.
It's right. I mean, we've called his games for years. Back when he was at Cal, I was working for the Pac-12 network, so we had a bunch of their games. And first time I ever met him, comes right up, Mr. Roth, Mr. Brown, Mr. Perry, like, look in the eye, nice to meet you, sir. It's like, hey, you can call me Yogi, like, I'm not that old, man. But he's just got this way about him, though, where back at Cal, they called him the mayor, because he just had this way to be able to, like, kind of impact everybody in a really positive manner. I think as a competitor, I can remember asking him, like, what's your screensaver on your phone? And it was Tom Brady at the time, back in the day. And he's modeled his life after Brady in terms of being under-recruited, underdeveloped, in terms of, like, the experts, right? I'm sure, Brandon, you evaluated Brady. If you did, he'd be a 5-star coming out. But, Fernando was a 2-star. He also, I told my kids this before I went to the Heisman, like, he was 4th string when he was in 6th grade. He was 4th string when he was a sophomore. And then he just kind of worked his way and never stopped believing in his ability and his talents. And I think we've seen that obviously come to massive fruition on a huge stage. In addition, he's had a different coordinator every year he's played college football. Like, think about that for a minute. It's not like he and a coordinator were a package deal to go into Indiana. He had to go to another place. And you reference Alberto, his younger brother. When he was talking football with him, that's when he's like, whoa, what he's saying, what he's learning from offensive coordinator, former Pitt Panther Mike Shanahan, is different than what he had been hearing at the time. And that's what tilted the scale from going to Georgia or going to Indiana. So he goes to Indiana to be around his brother, really to hone the craft. Then you watch him play. I reference calling his game, and you talk to coaches and you dive into the film, and he's impressive. His ability to change things at the line of scrimmage against a variety of looks, against a Matt Patricia defense, like, that's real. And I know the odds you just referenced, but I also know what our eyes have told us. And I think for all of us, and maybe you guys included, definitely me, I'm making my bracket pick, and I pick Oregon at first. And I'm like, is it Ohio State? And then I'm like, what am I doing? Indiana is the most complete team in America. Why am I ignoring what the film has shown the world, led by QB1? So they're a complete team. We'll see if they can navigate the injury to Stephen Daly on the CFP run, their defensive end, who's an absolute stud. But Fernando gives them a real chance. And in these games, if they're tight, how do you not bet on the guy who 4 times outside of his own stadium led a team to victory in a gotta-have-it situation? I mean, it's hard to ignore, and that's why I think he might be the number 1 pick. And if you told me that at Cal a couple years ago, I would have said, number 1 pick? Like, what round? And now we're talking about the first round, and it's real, man. And he deserves it. So yeah, it's legit, man. He's amazing. Like, I hope my kids look to him like he looked to Brady, and I think they will.
Yeah. Now, I being in media relatively new, I'm still learning the navigations and how to handle things. But being under Coach Harbaugh, he taught us how to approach the media and speak to the media. And one of the things he said was, when the media brings up 2 people, really don't talk about either, because they want you to kind of push one down. But I'm going to put you in this situation, Yogi. Okay. And if Dante Moore comes out, who do you draft number 1? Do you draft Fernando, or do you take Dante?
I think it's going to be dependent upon the next month. And I think that's, I'm assuming, what's going to tilt the lens for Dante Moore. Like, we are obviously in a different era where players, we're seeing them sign for another year. The floor to me for quarterbacks is around 1.5 for a 1-year deal. So we'll see what Dante decides to do. I think they're both really talented. Dante's probably, I mean, they're both sneaky athletic. I think Dante's elite as in terms of ball location. I think he's probably, if you had to really pick it apart, probably go there. But I also go to experience, and you can't, the NFL doesn't lie. Like, think of the players that have come out after 1 year, less than 15 games. Who's thrived versus 3 or 4 year starters, 2 or 3 year starters. Like, it's just a different thing in terms of at bats. So I don't know. I'd be curious I love the Raiders. Some of the Pete Carroll guys you guys may have gleaned. So do they pick a quarterback in the first round? If they have the number 1 pick, where do they go? I don't know, man. But I get asked this all the time, usually about 3 months from now. And I think it's okay that there's a lot of talent at the same position. It's kind of like, is it Ohio State, Indiana, Oregon? Like, it's okay that they're all really good. And Georgia, and maybe Miami and Texas Tech. Like, I think it's okay to say this class is, got some talent if Dante comes out. I look at next year's class and I'm like, whoa, we haven't had one like that since, Caleb's class, or JJ McCarthy's class. Like, it's been a while since we've had like a crop of quarterbacks. And it's fun for me. I see them all at the Elite 11 growing up. So it's kind of fun to watch them all kind of make their moves. I think what probably stood out, just to kind of put a bow on it, from the Heisman is 3 of the last 4 winners, and 3 of them are quarterbacks, all were at multiple schools. So it's like, as we begrudge the portal, like, we've also seen guys thrive there. Back in my day, you transfer, and like, very rarely was somebody getting better. Was it going to a better scenario because you had to sit out or what have you? And now we're watching guys just absolutely elevate their ability and their performance. Dante Moore is one. Fernando Mendoza is the other. Julian Sand, I know it was just a minute he was at Bama, but he obviously is thriving as well.
Speaking of that, how about the names that have jumped in over the last 48 hours at quarterback into the portal? Like, it's going to be a feeding frenzy. It's going to be a feeding frenzy come January 2nd. Some big names jumped in the portal. I digressed a little bit. That's not all Big Ten topic there. But you just mentioned Julian Sand. I mean, ho-hum, Julian Sand just running the show at Ohio State, completing an absurd percentage of his passes, and in any other year certainly had a Heisman worthy campaign. And Ohio State, as I said, is the betting favorite to win it again, but now they're without Brian Hartline. They did just lose their last game to Indiana. I mean, like, it sounds crazy to say that they're reeling. They're not. But there are some things that they're dealing with now as they move into the playoff that they weren't, a month ago. And so, thoughts on Ohio State? They're the betting favorites to win it all. Could probably make an argument they're the most talented. I mean, there's a lot of talent around the country, but they're right there. And then, Julian Sand doesn't win the Heisman, but he is as good as anybody throwing the football in the country.
Yeah, they are the most talented. They've got the most NFL caliber players in terms of early rounds. And that's always my fun comparison of, like, look at Oregon's roster, or Texas Tech roster, or Miami, any of them. And it's like, these rosters are full of NFL players. They're paying a bunch of money to have them. They're recruiting them. They're developing them. But Ohio State's are more premium. Like, there's more guys early on. Like, as a Heisman voter and a Bolitnikoff voter, I almost voted for Jeremiah Smith because I'm like, he is the most outstanding player to me in the country. Now, his numbers, I get it, like, don't reflect it, and it's all part of the evaluation. But he and Caleb Downs are the most dominant players on either side of the ball from my purview in terms of how they impact the game. You add in Julian, you add in Carnell Tate, you add in, the linebacking core and Arvell Reese and company, you add in the back end. Like, not surprised. If I had to bet, like, real money, I would have picked Ohio State. Like, but my bracket is worth nothing, so I just made one, and picked Indiana to go for it. But I'm with you in that regard. I think in terms of navigating these things, that's where I go to Ryan Day. He is so impressive to me. I've known him since he was an assistant, and you watched him grow and evolve and develop. And I think last year, clearly, a ton has been made about winning the national title and what that did for him as a head coach and just his overall approach. And I just see, when I'm watching him now, I see a steadiness that is so impressive. And I'm sure many young coaches are watching and hopefully emulating it. So I'm not worried about the Buckeyes navigating all those things. Is it a lot to navigate? Sure. But that's college football, and that's Ohio State. And that's the good part about Ryan Day. He spent so much time in Columbus. He knows all of the things that go into that job and the pressures around it. He's seen the horrible side of it and the glorious side of it. And I'm not worried about his team being ready at all. I mean, I actually think their loss is going to be a benefactor for them on this run, because they got to see the issues they have, just like they did in week 1 playing against Texas. That's why I love these non-con, real legit games early in the season, because you get to find out. Like, you don't just go 3 non-con, MAC schools or Mountain West schools. Like, you are playing a premier team to say, what can we do? Where do we struggle? And they saw one again at the end of the season. It kind of bookended. If you look at their 2 most competitive games, that's what they were. Okay, how do we shore up our offensive front? How do we adjust our protections? How do we handle aggressive defenses? Because he's going to see them every weekend. That's what this CFP run will be about, especially if you project out their potential opponents. So I'm not hesitating one iota for them and what they have to navigate. I think Ryan Day is as impressive as any head coach in the country around learning how and what he's learned how to navigate.
I agree with you, Yogi, there. I think this Big Ten championship loss that they took to Indiana is going to resemble a lot of what the Michigan win at Ohio State during their national championship run is going to look like. I think it's going to propel them. Speaking of Michigan, that brings up some interesting news, obviously, headline news.
Not least for Grant and I here, yes.
Front page news. Just wanted to get your take on the whole ordeal there. And do you think Michigan's going to be in a better place moving forward after this, the scandal? And where do you think they're going to look, or have you heard of any possible candidates that you think or you would like to see, possibly take that next step to Michigan?
Well, it's been fun watching you two, knowing how close you are to the program and your analysis and evaluation of it. I've always felt that, my job as a college football analyst is to celebrate the game and coach the viewer on game day. And during the week is to be insightful and thoughtful in my analysis. When this crossed my desk, like all of yours, I think, Grant, one of your tweets might have been like, your thumb is sore because of the amount of scrolling that you were doing. I felt the same way of like, wow, I'm just shocked. I'm sad. I'm gutted for so many parties, right? Obviously, Sharon's family, the coaching staff that had to navigate this. But I always lean to the players, like, God, this is a challenge, right? And now good for them that Biff Poggi's there. I've known Biff, as you guys have, like, he's built for tough moments, so he'll help navigate this team. You referenced some of his earlier comments around doing just that. Will Michigan be better off? Yeah, for sure. I mean, how don't you? I mean, clearly it was a real challenging, if not toxic, environment at some point, whether that was the final 24 hours there or weeks, like who knows? I know there's a lot of reports of what people knew and how they knew it. I don't know any of those to be true or not, just because I'm not living it every day. But yeah, I think they're going to be able to turn the page and start fresh. And this program deserves that. I mean, this is one of the crown jewels in our sport, and it deserves the opportunity to have somebody at the top where there is not scandal, there are not off the field issues. And that is what has been a reality for a couple seasons now. And that's not Michigan football. I saw that out at SC for years, where it just felt like they were always in the news. And what was it? There was always something going on. And it was just like, can we just recruit, develop, play football, graduate, send guys to the NFL, sell out an environment? Like, those types of things were just being, they weren't the headlines. And I think for Michigan and you as a Michigan man, and Brandon, you've covered this school longer than anybody, it's just not what it should be about. So yeah, they'll be a lot better for it. Whom? I don't know. I mean, I read the same thing you guys do. I think a lot of coaches probably desire this job, and I'm sure there's a lot of questions around this job, and there's a lot of cleaning up that has to do with this job. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know where they go.
I'll pose it this way. I'll give you a name and tell me why they would be a good fit. Jedd Fisch.
Yeah, Jedd Fisch should be a good fit anywhere. Jedd Fisch and I interviewed for the Seahawks the same day in 2010. We sat next to each other in
no way.
He
used to show us Matt Hasselbeck notes in meetings. He would just show us all.
So Jedd.
Yeah.
You know the deal, man. I mean, Jedd's awesome. Jedd's a dear friend. Jedd also, I know, loves where his feet are, in Seattle, just like he loved it in Tucson. And you can't ignore what he's done everywhere he's gone, where they've gotten better. He's recruited, he's developed, he's identified, he's run it with efficiency. I think he's one of the few coaches that could be a CEO at like a real Fortune 500 company, like a Microsoft. Like, he's got that acumen to him at the top, which is needed at every big time Big Ten school, much like he's doing at Washington. I'm sure, obviously at Michigan as well. So yeah, I think Jedd would find success anywhere.
What about Kenny Dillingham?
Kenny's awesome. you look at his path, Florida State, Auburn, Memphis, like young coach moving around in Eugene. And we had him in I think it was Arizona State and Oregon game back in the day. And I remember the production meeting saying, hey, will you want this job? And he didn't flinch. Like he was like, yes, I want this job. And Herm Edwards had already been dismissed. So he's landed his dream job. I think what Kenny has is what a lot of coaches I think are desiring, which is perspective on reality and life. He grew up in Scottsdale. He lives in the same neighborhood as his family. He has gotten to this place at ASU where it's sold out every game. I think he's got a young family. He could be there for 10 years, 15 years, as long as he wants. I know Kenny has that purview. The challenge will be like, as the thing pops up on your shoulder and it's like, well, this is pretty beautiful over here. Like, do you want to go get it? This is an opportunity to have like a historic blue blood. And isn't that a fun debate? Like historic blue blood versus emerging elite team, right? Like Indiana, who would have thought, right? Kurt Cignetti saying, no, I'm good, Penn State. Like, I'm good, or whomever has made overtures to him because he can win there. And I think we're in this era, and I wonder if these coaches are being torn. Because it's really about like, what resources do I have? And then I can go win. Does the fan base care? Yeah. Can I recruit there? So, yeah, would he be great? Sure. Again, another guy who's proven to know how to build a program.
It sure looked like he was torn the other day. He was asked about it. He's started crying and was silent for 30 seconds. I'm like, golly, that guy is going through it. But there's worse ways to go through it. Obviously, we've seen that. We'll get you out of here on this. We're over just a touch, but the last name, Grant, I still think Kalen DeBoer is in play. I know he put a comment out there. I know he put a statement out there. I know he's got a big game coming up. But Kalen DeBoer, Kenny Dillingham, he's saying, we've seen coaches with these statements before. I tweeted this out not too long ago. We've seen, I love it here, my family, blah, 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 and then they're on a plane the next morning. Like, it literally happens almost every year. Is there any chance Michigan can pry DeBoer out of Tuscaloosa?
It's amazing. Like, we live in this world where nobody gets the benefit of the doubt. And that's like across all landscapes and all spectrums of whatever your profession might be. And I always just kind of urge to, can we give people the benefit of the doubt? Like, why does Kalen DeBoer presumably not enjoy it in Tuscaloosa? Like, nobody knows. I was there in the spring. I did a media training with his team and spent time with them. And nobody is not going to agree with the fact that, like, even if he wins 3 national titles, he's not going to be Nick Saban. Mm-hmm. But if you know Kalen DeBoer, like, he's okay with that. Like, Kalen's a small school guy who kind of came up the hard way and wants to go win at the highest level. And he's built something that's got sustainability now after year 2. And I think we're in this like knee-jerk thing, like, I got to go. All of us, right? Like, I got to scroll, I got to see, I got to tap, and I keep hearing that too. And I don't know, like, if there's other parts of him that are like, I want to go have a new experience. I get these opportunities rarely come up, but like, maybe they'll start coming up more. Like, I keep telling people, and they're like, I can't believe our coach left. And I'm like, well, the era of like 5 or more years at an institution is rarefied air. The pressure, the money made, and the pressure from the outside that you have to win or make changes. The money you're asking for is from donors. And if donors aren't happy, they're not going to donate. Then you're not going to have your plus 15 million on top of rev share to buy your roster. Like, I just think that like we're in this whole new world. So I always just lean to like, he said what he said. And you're right, Brandon, like, we've seen people put out statements and go the other way. But I've known Kalen for a long time. I feel like I keep saying that sentence, which only is aging me here. But I do not anticipate him going back on that. I think that's wishful thinking. I don't think that's accurate for the man that I know. Now, selfishly, would I love him at Michigan? Any of those 3, for sure. Because you're like calling their games and you know these guys. You shoot them a text and hey, what's going on? But I don't know. I think there's more talented coaches out there than people think. I'll end you with that. Like, there's more talented coaches out there than people think. Here's my favorite example. Chris Peterson is at Boise State. He gets offered the Washington job a long time ago. If he doesn't take it, everything I learned, Doug Nussmeier was going to get the head coaching job. He was the OC at the time. Chris Peterson takes it. They go to the playoff, and away he goes. Doug Nussmeier only gets better as a coach. He goes to Michigan, Florida, Alabama, the NFL. But you never hear his name for head coaching jobs. Why? Because like, it's not in the cycle of news. But he's a heck of a better coach than he was when he had the opportunity to take over when Steve Sarkisian came to USC back in whatever, 2012, 2013, whatever it was. And I just say that, I'm like, there are so many talented coaches out there, folks. So if you don't get the hottest name or a guy at a current blue blood as a sitting head coach, it doesn't mean you didn't nail it. Matt Campbell, an example, when he went to Iowa State, he just spent a decade there and killed it. And I get it. Michigan's a huge job. We can't hire an assistant. I understand all those things. But again, there's so much untapped talent in coaching that has not sat in that seat yet. So I'm just throwing that out there. Like, I don't know where they're going to go. I know nothing of what they're going to do, but I do think they'll end up in a better place.
Phenomenal insight from Yogi Roth. Thank you so much. We took more time than we said we were. I could keep going. You could keep going, I'm sure. But that's all we have time for. So thank you so much, Yogi, for sitting down and talking all these topics with Grant and I. And we'll do this again. We will absolutely be doing this again. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Well,
thanks, Yogi.
Yeah, you too. I love watching y'all do your thing, and congratulations as you guys continue to come together and keep moving forward, man.
The same to you, man.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thanks a lot.